I'm Craig Buckman. I'm the department chair here at Washington University Department of Otolaryngology. So hopefully you guys are on the right Zoom call. But we're here in St. Louis, of course, and we're super happy that you're here with us tonight. We put together sort of an all-star lineup for you guys to learn something about our program. And there's a couple of faculty members, and then it's mostly residents. So I think we learned last year, honestly, that the residents are much better at telling you all about the program than we are. And so again, we're super happy you're here. You know, just a couple things that you might not know about the program, and you might not have might not hear is we're one of the oldest programs, maybe the second oldest or third oldest program in the United States. So we've been around for a really long time. Over the last 5 years, tremendous clinical growth. And that means a lot to a residency. And so the case material, whether it's surgeries or patients to see in the clinic or in the emergency department or wherever, is really fantastic. We've also spread out some of our clinical opportunities to newer places, newer hospitals out in the community, which then gives you, again, another diversity of opportunities. So we see that as a big positive. Lots of new faculty. We've added, since I've been here, about 2 or 3 new faculty almost every year. And so again, that gives a lot of different experiences and seeing a lot of different people do things a variety of ways. And so that's a really great thing. You know, another thing that we think is fantastic about our program is our hospital system. They're a great partner, and as you all know, residents actually work for the hospital system, and so they're great partners and really world-class place. One of the unique things about our program is there's a huge research opportunity. Dr. Picarillo is on the call here tonight. He runs the research programs, and our residents take research very seriously, and we love that. And the education is really top-notch, just a tremendous environment to learn. And then I would say maybe most importantly, and I hope that you'll sense a little bit of that here tonight from the bunch of smiling faces that are looking back at us, is that our culture is a real great one. It's a family environment. We hope to convey that. Most people, I think, are very, very happy here. It's an easy place to live and lots of good things to do. So welcome again. Thanks for being here. We're just super happy that you're taking the time to meet with us, and most importantly, if you have any questions along the way, if you want to dump them in the chat, that's fine. Or if any time after this you feel like you really want to learn more about the program, it's absolutely okay to reach out to any of us, whether it be the residents or any of the faculty. We'd love to hear from you. So thanks again, and have a good night. I think I'll turn it over to Dr. Judy Liu. She's the residency program director in our program. So thanks again.
Thanks, Dr. Buckman. Hopefully you can all see my screen. So I'm just going to go over a quick brief overview of the program. Dr. Buckman actually has done a lot of this already, but let's get started here.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Okay, so the Washington University program actually is a consortium with Barnes-Jewish Hospital, St. Louis Children's Hospital, and the VA Hospital. And so we have 5 residents per year. 3 are clinical and 2 are T32, that is their research driven, 5 clinical years plus 2 extra research years. So our main training locations are Barnes-Jewish Hospital, John Cochran VA Hospital, and St. Louis Children's Hospital. Both the Barnes-Jewish Hospital and St. Louis Children's Hospital are level 1 trauma centers, so we get lots of experience with trauma. We have a number of satellite sites, as Dr. Buckman had alluded to, including the Barnes-Jewish Hospital in West County, Missouri Baptist Hospital, the South County Center for Advanced Medicine, the Children's Specialty Care Center, Christian's Northeast Hospital, and St. Luke's Hospital. So there's a lot of places that our residents go to in order to get their training. So where do our residents come from? This is a map of the U.S. showing where the homes of our residents, and you can see actually the greatest number of residents come from California, but then we're distributed all across the United States. And where did they go to medical school? We are a little bit less distributed here. Most of us come from the Midwest, one from Washington State, and some from the East, as well as one from Costa Rica. So some distinctive aspects, Dr. Buckman again alluded to this, but we have a long history of leading in head and neck cancer surgery. We are a level 1 trauma center for both adults and children. We have approximately 200-mile referral radius. So that means you have to go to Chicago or Kansas City or Indianapolis or Memphis or farther in order to get to another comparable large medical center. And we're located on Washington University Medical Center. That means our colleagues in all of the other specialties are very high powered, and we learn a tremendous amount working with them and working with them, both clinically and research. So we definitely have excellence in clinical and research training. All of our residents have had great success in obtaining fellowships in the fields that they want to go into. And we continue to improve and work on our training and mentorship for academic practice. So for more information, please go to our website. There you'll get residency information. You'll get a sense of prior Taste of WashU otolaryngology videos from 2020. If you choose to watch them, it's okay if you don't. We do have all the applications that are done through EROS, and so that will be opening in September, so very soon. We have not set a deadline for applications yet, but usually it comes in early October, so please make sure your applications get in. And we will participate in the single interview offer day initiative. That means on November 5th, all of our initial interviews will go out at the same day, and you will have until Monday, November 8th to decide if you are going to accept those interview offers. So Dr. Piccarello, I'll hand it over to you for a brief hello and welcome.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Liu, and welcome to all of our medical students here. I've been at Washington University for about 30 years now and can just attest to what a wonderful place it is. My role is Vice Chair for Research. I want to make sure all of you know about the tremendous research infrastructure that we've been able to build here. That includes biostatisticians, research compliance coordinators, and a whole bunch of services to really help both the 5-year and the 7-year get research done. There's no lack of opportunity for the 5 years to do research. Just because you're not on the research track doesn't mean you can't and are not expected to do research. You are, and you have full access to all the resources here. So it's a tremendous program. It has strengths, as you'll find out tonight if you don't know already, strengths on the clinical and as well as on the research side. For those of you who are interested in an additional 2 years, and I see some of our T32s here tonight, we will have a Taste of WashU T32 on September 1st, and I welcome you to that. So have a great time tonight. Thanks so much.
All right, is it our turn yet? It sounds like it. Okay, give me 1 second and we will get our portion up.
So I'm Miranda Lindberg. I'm one of the PGY 5s here.
And I'm Catherine Chang. I'm one of the PGY 3s. So really happy to have you guys with us. We are very excited to tell you about how much we love our program and can't really recommend this place enough. It's just a great place to train. There's great people here. We really are a family, and hopefully you can see that from the rest of this presentation.
Yeah, it's been fantastic in my 5 years here. I'm also kind of a little bit of a WashU lifer at this point. Went to medical school here, liked it so much I stayed on for residency. Will admit I was also an undergrad here, so really have fallen in love with this place. So if you have any questions about WashU or St. Louis or anything, although I'm not originally from here, let me know at any time. But let's get to it.
Yeah, and to open this up, we have a really great picture of me and Miranda when we were on Children's together. We dissected this huge branchial cleft cyst, and here's a smiling picture of both of us.
Yeah.
Okay, so highlights of WashU. We just picked a few because there's definitely a lot that we could talk about, but we have a limited amount of time and we don't, want you guys falling asleep. So for me, heavy operative and clinical volume. This is a huge referral center. huge hospital system. We don't struggle getting case numbers, seeing different kind of diverse pathologies in clinic. We serve a pretty diverse patient population as well. And I think some of you asked about, operative experience as juniors. And as someone who has done 1 and 2 year, I can say that our program is very much into getting us into the operating room early on, even as interns. And that only increases throughout the years. And hopefully you can see that. We're going to talk about each PGY year, and we'll have different residents presenting, and it'll give you a sense of how much we really get to do. And we are growing. So
as Dr. Buckman kind of said, there's new faculty every year, there's new sites, there's more and more going on every year. So it's changed just in the years that I've been here as a resident, but I think we're going to continue to do so. And as he also mentioned, fantastic resident culture. I love spending time in the hospital with my co-residents, even though I'm, working hard, hanging out in the workroom with everybody has been fantastic. And that you're supported by your co-residents as well as the faculty. They really have your back. So
yeah, I've been guilty of lingering in the workroom after my my shift is. I know. I'm there for an hour afterwards, and my boyfriend's texting me when are you coming home? And anyways, that's how much we like each other. Okay, so PGY 1 year. I'm gonna let one of our current interns maybe talk about this, and then so Amrita, are you on right now? Yeah, I think Amrita's here.
Yeah.
So why don't you start us off with this?
Sure. Thanks, Catherine. Hi, everyone. My name is Amrita. I'm one of the current interns, like she said. So for your PGY 1 year, essentially there's 6 months of ENT rotations. So we're at our children's hospital, you're on the consult service, as well as our very busy head and neck service. And then 6 months of non-ENT rotations. You can see them all listed there, a couple of different surgical subspecialties, as well as anesthesia and SICU. So in my little over 2 months here, I've been mostly on ENT rotations. I did my first month at our children's rotation, which was a really great experience. You're seeing a lot of really complex pathologies in clinic. There's a lot of interdisciplinary clinics. We also get oral and maxillofacial surgery experience during our PEDS ENT, which is new. So it's been great being in the operating room so early and intern year, getting experience working in the oral cavity. I've gotten to do a couple of mandibles as well, which is really exciting. And then I've also been in our consult service, which is pretty unique. Essentially, as the intern, you're fielding all of the questions about existing consults as well as your own primaries. And then there's another junior resident, a 2 or a 3, who's seeing the new consults during the day. And then there's a chief that oversees all of it. We've been very busy, but a lot of great operative experience there as well. Gotten to do a lot of trachs with my chief and some INDs and a lot of practice scoping. So it's been really great so far in my 2 months here. And I'll tap maybe somebody else in, maybe Jordan, if you want to comment on the rest of intern year.
Jordan, you logged on? Or maybe is there another PGY2 that wants to jump in?
I saw Jordan just now. Oh, you're muted, Jordan. There you go.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
We got you.
Okay, sorry. I think my headphones had me muted. Apologize. Anyways, I was just saying, I'm Jordan. I'm one of the PGY2s. Thanks so much for coming here, guys. I remember the season, and there's a lot of stress and emotions, and just know we all went through it. So happy to talk about PGY1 a little bit, and also transition in some of the early parts of PGY2. So I really think we have a great intern year. Like we said, my console experience, my second month of intern year, I was in on 10 trachs where I was putting knife to trachea. That's a really, I think, unique thing that gets undersold of how much we used to do early on. But to talk about some of the off-service stuff that we do. So thoracic surgery and pediatric surgery are 2 kind of general surgery services where we are there. We do call with them. Thoracic surgery, really great opportunity. Work with some of our essentially other surgical fields that are really similar to ENT. Similarly, neurosurgery and plastic surgery, not gen surg specialties. So we don't take call to the same degree, but they're a great opportunity just to kind of get really good collegiality. I think they're great highlights of the interdepartmental collegiality and workspace with the residents and the faculty. People really care about using ENT intern. They don't want you just to be sitting around. You're in the operating room majority of the time. I thought I really had a great experience across the board on all these rotations. And then just touch base quickly on the last one. So SICU is good. I mean, I feel like I learned a ton. And then as a TW2 resident, you get an opportunity to potentially come back later and moonlight there, which we might touch upon later. But it was a really great opportunity to learn what surgical ICU is like and how to kind of be part of that. And then anesthesia, fantastic rotation, a lot of intubation, airway experience. So overall, I think we have a really well-rounded PGY 1 year. And I'm happy to also transition into the PGY 2 unless there's anything else that someone wanted to say there.
Let's get to
Great.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm new PGY 2. So far I've done laryngology and I'm finishing up my rhinology block. So the main transition to PGY 2, you start taking primary call. So that means you're holding the pager, you're holding the difficult airway pager as well too. The great thing about our system is you have like a backup senior resident that's kind of available and with you and is always helping out. So even though it is kind of a step up in responsibility, you never feel overwhelmed. The other thing that's really fantastic is you're kind of all ENT moving forward. And my 2 rotations so far, laryngology, rhinology, really a lot of great operative experience and learning. We kind of recently revamped this year too, where you get a little taste of all the specialties. So personally, I'm super excited about what it's been like. And one of the new things that we're doing is this past rotation, which is pathology, allergy, swallow, and sleep. So you get kind of like, again, a little more broad interest into some areas that are maybe kind of tougher to see in ENT, but are very important to the field. So that's kind of what I've experienced so far. I'm pretty sure Teresa is on here too, and she's kind of done the rest of PGY 2. So happy to kind of toss the ball to her.
Yeah. Great.
So,
Okay.
hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can now.
So a couple of other things I can mention about PGY 2 year. One is that you start with an induction course and a boot camp. So we do a boot camp with SLU, which is 1 day where you go around to different stations and kind of practice general consult complaints, because PGY 2 year is the first time that you're taking consults as the primary physician. And then the induction course is in place of our usual grand rounds. We have kind of an intensive experience that covers every aspect of otolaryngology in the acute inpatient setting. And the seniors and chiefs do lectures for us, facilitated by faculty members. And we kind of go around doing cases. It's a pretty fun and informative course. One other thing I can mention about PGY 2 year is that, just what Catherine said, we get a lot of early exposure in the OR. As a PGY 2, you will regularly have your own cases on every single one of these specialties. I can think of some examples, like for something like a FES, you might be sharing it with a chief and they'll do one side, you'll do the other side, or you'll just be doing the whole case with the attending. On otology, you might start a mastoidectomy and then your senior will step in when it's time to do the facial recess, or not. I've done those by myself as well. You might split up the sides of a neck dissection in head and neck, but you will get a lot of those. And I think I am close to my requirement numbers for most of these procedures. And then definitely on laryngology, you have the attending to yourself almost always. And then one other thing is night float. Night float saves us on call as PGY2s. A lot of systems don't have night float, but because we have night float as a PGY2, you take call at Barnes once a week, and then the 5 of you will split up weekend call evenly. So it's really, really nice because you're not on call like every 48 hours or something like that. And you have most of your time to focus on the cases that you're doing on each of these rotations.
Yeah, also as a recent PGY2 graduate, I couldn't agree more with your statements. I feel like for like most of these specialties, I was like single scrubbed at the attending, maybe with the exception of head and neck, but like, yeah, it's, you also like learn a lot from your attendings directly. You're not just being taught by like the fellow or the senior resident as a junior. Like you get a lot of face time with the actual attending in these cases.
And that's true even as an intern occasionally. I mean, I was doing like some medialization laryngoplasties as an intern, some fantastic cases as a 2. So you really get in there early, which is awesome.
Yeah. And so PGY3, I'm a new PGY3, so I'm also going to share this with somebody, probably, let's see, Sebastian and Ethan. Okay. Well, Sebastian or Ethan, you guys can jump in and help me out. But this is our PGY3 schedule. So we do research PGY3 year, which I think is a huge benefit, especially if you're looking at applying to fellowship. You want to get those publications out. You want to get your work done, get those presentations really before PGY4 year when you're like applying. So I think it's great. And we get 21 weeks of research, which I think is enough time to actually do a good project. I think less than that, you may struggle a little bit. It's still doable, but I think the way we do it is good. We're also at the VA for 10 weeks. And then we're on facial plastics for 5, and then our gold team, which is rhinology and laryngology, for another 5 weeks, head and neck for 5 weeks. And then we also do night float for 5 weeks. And so we share that duty with the 2s. So the VA is kind of the distinguishing part aside from the research block of PGY3 year. And it's going to be a great rotation. And it's really the PGY3 rotation. Like, you learn how to be a senior. That's when you kind of transition from a junior to a senior, and you run that service. Like, you book the OR cases, you like make the clinic schedule, you're on call, you're staffing with the attendings directly. It's your service. This year we have like 3 new hires. So we have Paul Zolkind, who was a graduate of WashU and did head and neck fellowship at Stanford. So he's coming back and going to be the VA chief, I think, soon, or if he's already starting. Raj Dang is also a recent graduate of WashU, and he is going to be part-time at the VA, and then also work, I think, at Christian. And then Matt Shu was our otology fellow last year and recently graduated. So he's going to be the ear guy at the VA. So between the 3 of them, it should be a really busy service. And then I mentioned the long research block and the benefits of that. And like Dr. Piccirillo mentioned, the clinical residents have access to all the research kind of resources of WashU and of our department, which is immense. I think we're number 6 in NIH funding. We have access to all these statisticians. Everyone's always doing great research. We have a lot of people that are R01 funded. And so all that is available to you, and our residents come out pretty well published. So it's definitely a good place for that if that's, what you want. And then a big plus of PGY3 is no in-house weekend call. So that's always a plus. Sebastian, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think I'll just touch on a couple of things that are on the slide. So I can't emphasize enough how much autonomy you really do get at the VA. It really is one of the next stepping stones in your education as a physician, really as being the doctor in charge of your patient. Of course, you're always backed up, and you always have somebody that you can call with, whether it's the senior or the attending that's on call with you that night. But once you are a 3 at the VA, it really is the expectation that you should do everything in your power to manage the patient to the best of your ability until it is unsafe for you to do so in certain scenarios. So it's a really great learning experience, and I'm sure that Zach or Ethan, my co-residents, would attest to that as well. Really shortly to go over the facial plastic surgery rotation. We have a great opportunity in facial plastics. We have 3 attendings that are operatively busy, but on this rotation, it also incorporates trauma into this. So it's almost understood that the PGY3 on Wednesdays will be in charge of the trauma OR. Every week, there is a rotation of a different facial plastic surgeon that'll take the trauma call. And that following Wednesday, they'll be the attending in the trauma OR at Big Barns, our main location. And the PGY3 kind of has almost first dibs on all of those trauma cases. So you really gain a lot of experience there, which will help you with your future calls and when you're a senior backing up your junior residents. And then I'll make one other comment quickly about research. We have the kind of the luxury and the camaraderie in our program to where we can kind of make our own schedules as the residents. So we have a guideline of these are all of the rotations that need to occur. The senior residents help make the rotation schedule, and then the junior residents will kind of fill in their names and make adjustments as needed. The reason I say that is because the 21 weeks of research that you get can be broken up into 2 chunks. So for me, and I think one of my colleagues, we had 2 10-week chunks of research. which I actually found great benefit for. It gives you a little bit more flexibility in your projects, because as many of you probably know, research can kind of take some very busy times and then some lulls. So if you time that lull during your clinical time and you come back to your research, you can really get a significant chunk of material done.
Yeah.
I think that's all I had to say on top of what Catherine said.
Yeah, that's what I do with my research time. Well, now that you're, a big PGY4, I think this is a perfect opportunity, especially because we have a picture of you and 2 of your colleagues at Amit's wedding. You want to lead us off?
Yeah. I'll just briefly talk about the 2 rotations that I've done, and then I'll let Ethan and Zach talk a little bit more about the others. So so far I have done the PASS rotation. We heard a little bit from Jordan about how this is pathology, allergy, SLP or speech language pathology, and sleep. It's an effort of our program to really understand that otolaryngology is a very diverse medical subspecialty. And there are a lot of other aspects to it that if we gain knowledge in these areas, it'll make you a much more knowledgeable and comprehensive otolaryngologist before you go on to your fellowship if you choose to do one. So that's a great rotation in order to gain that knowledge, but also meet with other colleagues that you're working with on a day-to-day basis up until this point. But then this really takes it home with getting to meet all of those colleagues so that you can form better connections in the hospital and take better care of your patients. At least I definitely felt that way. And then I moved on to the Christian Northeast rotation. It's a new rotation that we started, I think, this year. It's 1 PGY4 that goes out there. And with new hires, it's the hope that the PGY4 really is the only resident that goes out there. So you get first dibs on all the cases. We have a generalist that works out there, a sinus surgeon, and a head and neck surgeon. So you can kind of fill in the blanks with all the cases that you would be the only resident in. And by your PGY4 year, many of these cases, you can really end up doing kind of skin to skin or start to finish with your attending. It's a great rotation. It's another way to look at how otolaryngology can be practiced in the community. And so far, I have no bad things to say about it. So
I'll make a couple comments on some of my years so far. Similarly, had good experience at Christian, which is a different site. It reaches a population that doesn't always make it downtown to St. Louis. I think it's useful, educational, and also important to go spend time with those kind of patients. Alternatively, it's really a different setup in terms of the hospital and the surgical process, and it's valuable to see the different ways that surgery and perioperative care can be managed. I have to put a plug in for the temporal bone course, which we're doing right now, has been a highlight of the residency already. We're in day 3 of 5. It's a week of protected time, drilling with the otologist, really nailing the anatomy into our brains. Couldn't say enough good things about it. And then the other comment, that last bullet, is that PGY4 year, I would say, is where you start to learn to become an adult doctor. You're starting to take backup call, you're troubleshooting problems and supporting the junior. It's so much learning that you obtain in a pretty quick period of time.
Yeah.
Also, could I add one plug for the PGY4 rotation? So I'm also one of the new PGY4s. I've been on head and neck for the past 8 weeks, and I think the head and neck PGY4 rotation has been very transformative in a way. Even as a PGY4, I get to do like fellow level cases. I get to do some micro, depending on availability of the one fellow that we have, as well as raising flaps, as well as neurographs and all that. So I think that's kind of the benefit of being in a program like here, where you have such high volume, yet at the same time, just also attendings who are willing to let you have that autonomy.
Yeah. And then, moving up the autonomy ladder, we're going to take it home to PGY 5 year.
So,
Catherine, I'll just say one thing if I can.
Yeah, sorry.
I didn't want it to get lost in the weeds about night float, that it really is something that sets our program apart. You really need both the number of residents and the centrality of a single call pool in order to support night float, but it is a massive quality of life improvement for residents to have sign out at 5:30. There's a person at night who takes the call, versus a queue call system. It really just, sets your life on sort of a normal, you get up in the morning, you go to work, and you come home in the evening routine, which really just makes it much easier to be a real person in residency, and is a big factor. And I won't reiterate too much of what others have said, but I think WashU is really a no compromise program in terms of surgical training, research training, lifestyle, and culture. I mean, you just don't have to give anything up, and that's why I chose to come here.
Yeah, hence why Zach Douglas is sitting on his patio, or has been for the
Oh yeah.
last 2 hours.
Also, this is my house. I purchased it with my resident salary, so that is a major advantage of living in St. Louis.
Totally.
All right, now you can take it home.
No, totally fine. Everything that Zach said about night flow is totally true. And one of the main reasons why, was continuing to look at this program, because, when I was here as a med student, I saw that it worked super well for everyone. And I didn't see anything at any other place that worked nearly as well. So for chief year, rotations are very similar to a bunch of the other stuff you've done, but you're chiefing it every time. You're making the schedule, you're deciding what cases every resident on your service gets to do. And you're really the go-to person for all the attendings and managing all of these patients. So it's kind of a culmination of everything that you've learned in residency, which is actually very satisfying. So you have head and neck and a combination of general and rhinology. You have facial plastics and laryngology. You go back to the VA to kind of support that PGY3, like Sebastian was talking about, and have all of that autonomy. You chief the consult service, and then you also get an elective, which is fantastic. I have not yet done that, but that will come on later in the year. There's probably a bunch of different options that people are going to be able to do, which is awesome. You continue doing backup call during the weekends. So you'll back up the junior who's on call, and you getting to work with all the juniors is pretty fantastic. And then lots of other fun times. So so far chief year has been really fantastic. You kind of see everybody sort of launched into their career, which is pretty neat actually.
All right. Let's see, T32. So we are going to do a little brief kind of intro to T32, but we do have like a separate taste of WashU, like Dr. Piccirillo had mentioned. So let's see, David, are you on here?
Yeah. And again, I'll keep it brief since we'll have its own dedicated, just to harp on the research environment at WashU is incredible. And it's not just that it has a lot of resources or it has a lot of labs. I think the people are what make it great. Dr. Piccirillo in particular is a very strong resident advocate and a strong resident educator. He understands the long game. He's been funded for a very, very long time and understands it's not just about publications, it's about career development, and has developed the academic and research curriculum around the T32 track accordingly. In line with the large amount of resources we do have, I don't feel like there's any opportunity that I can't pursue, whether that's a graduate degree. I'm currently getting funded and my Master of Science in Clinical Investigation paid for by the T32 program. One of my co-residents is doing TASTE research in head and neck cancer and was just sponsored for a week in Philadelphia at the one and only Monell Research Institute for Special Senses. So if you are all interested in academic medicine and are at all interested in the T32 research track, stay tuned for more next week, Wednesday, and we can get into a little more detail.
Yeah. And this is Ricardo Ramirez on the right. He's one of the shining stars of the T32 program and smiling, as you can see.
Yeah.
This
doing and barbecuing.
Yeah. This is a really cool map. Dave, do you want to explain this, or is Ben on?
Yeah, so not too much to say here, except that this is all the alumni and scattered across the country. It's again, academic medicine is something that we are very passionate about here, and have the resources and the strength to do it. And it's just nothing speaks more to the strength of a program than the quality of its alumni. And you'll see some familiar faces on the actual map there. Dr. Liu, Dr. Rich, Dr. Paniello, some of our very own attendings and foundations in this program are graduates of the T32 program. So I really viewed these extra 2 years as an opportunity to anywhere I want to go in the country. And I'm also a slow learner, so I needed those extra 2. And again, join us next week if you're curious to learn more.
All right. Thanks a lot, David. All right. And, we've talked a lot about this night float system already. And so this is just a dedicated slide. And, speaking of, David, who's one of our great T32 residents, this is an example of a model resident, fielding consults and then also giving a massage to your attending. So way to go. So like I said, our night flow system, it's 5 weeks during PGY 2 and 3 years. It's 6 days a week and you get your Saturday off and you cover both hospitals. This makes it so that weekend call is really only Saturday for 24 hours and then Sunday for 12. And so that's a game changer for the junior residents. And so weekend call is split between the adult hospital and then also the children's hospital. So the adult hospital, like I said, it's Saturday and Sunday between the PGY2s. And then at the children's hospital on the weekend, it's home call for 36 hours when night float, gets a day off. And it's alternating between the 2 and the 4 that are currently on children's. And then at the VA, it's home call. And so the PGY3 does Monday through Friday home call for the VA. And then the weekends are alternating between the 3 and the 5. And I think this is probably the least painful way to do call. And so huge proponent of night float system. It is tough when you're on, but you do a tremendous service for the rest of your residency by being there. So can't plug this system enough.
Yeah, and one additional note there is I think Dr. Liu mentioned the diversity of clinical sites that we go to, but we do not cover call at those sites. So
Yes,
we only cover call at the Barnes Jewish Hospital and St. Louis Children's Hospital, as well as the VA. So we have one call pool at our central mega campus, which I think is a huge asset for such a large hospital system.
True.
Yeah, you're not traveling anywhere in the middle of the night. There's none of those like 3 a.m. Ubers to get to a difficult airway at some other, clinical site. Yeah, very, very happy about this.
All right. And so just getting into resident support. So this program really supports us, really advocates for us, which is super important because residency is tough. And no matter where you go, you're going to have battles and it's going to be tough. And so it's all about being somewhere where like the people support you and will advocate for you. And so these are just kind of some examples of things that our program does for us. And so we have like monthly resident meetings with Drs. Liu and Rich, who are our program director, and then our associate program director. And basically they give us updates about things, but we also just talk really candidly about things in our program that are bothering us, things within the hospital system, and they sort of have like the power to make those changes within that system, especially with Dr. Rich being on the adult side and then Dr. Liu being on the pediatric side of things.
Yes.
Chairman's rounds is also great. So our chairman is not this elusive figure. We all have a good amount of FaceTime with him. And so he actually takes time, I think like every 2 months or so to
once a month sometimes.
Yeah, to meet with us. It's just, we have to move the tables around like a dinner table, like a family.
Yeah.
And and we talk candidly with him too about things that are bothering us and things that are affecting our education. I don't know, like,
and
what
sometimes
do you think?
also like we'll do book club with Dr. Buckman as well, which has been fantastic. We've read some really great books and just kind of allowed that to guide a conversation. And it's been nice to have some aspect of your education that's not just, hard hitting science
Bailey's,
and ENT and
Pasha's.
that sort of thing. There's a lot more to being a doctor than just knowing how to cut someone. So
Yeah.
that is been fantastic, really something that I've appreciated.
And like an example was, I think, Zach had mentioned during chairman's rounds once, like, parking, for night float, can I park at this like the plaza garage that's closer? And I think like Dr. Buckman just like made that change. It was like immediate. So they really do support us. We get funding for conferences. If you have like a poster or you have an oral presentation, the program will give you funding for that. And they really encourage us to do that and are good about giving us that time off. We also have an ENT club. Unfortunately, COVID has sort of derailed some of our events related to that. But it's this like St. Louis club. You probably have gone to more of the events.
Yeah, it's for ENTs of St. Louis. So it involves SLU and then some of the other local people as well. Usually it's about once a month to once a quarter, have dinner and have a lecture by an invited guest lecturer. So basically like dinner and learning. And it's fantastic. There's also one time a year where there's kind of like a resident case competition where residents get to present different interesting cases and kind of share some of the interesting stuff they've seen, which has been fun.
Free dinner and wine.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's great.
Pretty great.
We also have GME wellness leaders, Ricardo and Teresa, and we're going to talk more about that. I think it's one of the questions somebody asked later. But the graduate medical education of kind of Barnes Jewish Hospital, they're sort of the representatives, and they provide us with a lot of resources for just wellness, resources for like therapy, for different activities, because they understand that residency is stressful and that we need support. Okay, so life in St. Louis, this is an exciting part. We want to talk about why we love living here and why you're going to love living here. And so let's just get to it. So where do we live? This is a map of the part of St. Louis. So we have the river on the right side, and that separates Missouri from Illinois. So St. Louis is right on the border. Our hospital is located, I don't know if you guys can see my mouse. Oh, probably not.
Basically right in the center of your screen.
If you see that big green thing in the middle, that's Forest Park, and we're just to the right of that. So the medical campus literally, like you walk across the street and you're in Forest Park. And Marina's gonna talk about Forest Park in the next slide, but it's amazing. It's a huge park, and it's amazing that it's right next to the hospital.
Yeah.
So most of our residents live in a neighborhood called Central West End. And so that's the neighborhood that's just adjacent to the hospital. And then you can see kind of a scattering of residents that live around Forest Park. And so many residents actually like ride their bikes, for instance, like through the park to get to work. Central West End is a very walkable distance from the hospital. And so a lot of people probably, you walk to the hospital, right?
Oh my gosh, I live on the street that's like right next to the hospital. So I basically run kitty corner, and I'm like in the, there's a sky link connecting all the buildings. And so I just like run across and I'm there. Super clutch. I live on a beautiful street, tree lined, I have like world-class, cocktails and food right down the street from me. So that's also pretty great too. It's a fantastic neighborhood to have right next to the hospital.
Yeah. And so here are some pictures of Central West End. It's a beautiful neighborhood, very cute, lots of restaurants, there's bars, a lot of coffee shops, and then kind of miscellaneous like boutiques. Like I think there's like an art gallery right across the street from me. There's a couple of like small business, like just like boutique shops where they sell like different types of clothes.
There's
So
a
it's
World
really,
Chess Hall of Fame museum.
Oh yes,
That's-
also that.
Yeah.
Well, chess, you're into
Chess
chess.
is huge here.
yeah, they actually have these like big like chess pieces that people can like play with. I see a lot of kids playing there, but yeah, it's a great area to live. There's a Whole Foods here, and so a lot of people like never drive. They like walk to work. They walk to Whole Foods to get groceries. They walk to the bars, like they walk to restaurants, and so
What else could you need?
really convenient. And then Streetery, I just want to give a shout out to. So COVID has been a bummer, I think, for like eating in restaurants and going to bars. And so Central West End tried to come up with a little bit of a solution to that, where they closed down like Euclid Avenue. It's like the big restaurant avenue on like the weekends. After like 5, I think they would close down that street and just set out all these tables and all these restaurants, which is like bring out food. And so it's really, really fun. Yeah, so it was a great thing that came out of COVID, one of the great things. And then there's also this Halloween Street Festival, which is really fun. People get dressed up. There's like a concert, I think, like kind of a couple streets down from me, and people are just dressed up, and there's a lot of like little like parades and things going on. So it's really fun. And then Forest Park, also adjacent to the hospital, Marina's going to talk a little bit about.
One of my favorite things, and it was also fantastic during COVID when nothing else was going on, but it's like the second largest urban park in America or something like that. It's bigger than Central Park. There's a ton of stuff that's in there that's actually free to go to, some of which I think are on some of the upcoming slides, but basically there's just tons and tons of trails. It's right next to the hospital. There's a ton of lakes. You can go fishing if that's your thing. I know Ricardo has done that a couple times. Tons of bike trails, lots of stuff to do. Museums, the zoo's free. Really just a fantastic way to get out of nature when you have time outside the hospital. So big places you can see. There's a couple things that I'll highlight in a little bit, but you can see that there's just like, there's both roads through it as well as a ton of bike trails, and then an entire waterway that goes through like the entire thing. There's a bunch of festivals that happen in there. There's something called the Balloon Glow every year. That's just before the Great St. Louis Balloon Race, which is like a hot air balloon, like actual race, which is cool. It's a whole festival atmosphere. They're lighting up all the hot air balloons. There's fireworks. It's really fun. There's always Shakespeare in the Park every year. The Muni is a outdoor like municipal opera is what it's known as. So it's basically musical theater that happens in the summer. You can get free tickets to.
I think I have a picture of that.
David and I are going to the Muni next week for Chicago.
Oh, nice. I want to go to Chicago. Okay, sweet. I didn't know it was coming up that fast. I'll have to keep an eye. I would love to. So the Muni, you can get free tickets. The art museum is fantastic. It's free. The Missouri History Museum, same thing. St. Louis Science Center is awesome. There's a planetarium that does actually fantastic star shows. And then the zoo is also free. And it's one of the most fantastic zoos in the country if you're into zoos, which I definitely am.
Yeah, and these are some of the pictures of the zoo is in kind of the lower part of the slide, and then this is Art Hill. We've had picnics there. It's a great place. Yeah, Forest Park is awesome.
That picture there is actually they do movies on Art Hill in the middle of the summer. There's just always something going on, which is pretty great.
Oh, professional sports. So this is a great city for professional sports. Let's see, Jake at Ricardo. Ricardo is a St. Louis, is it St. Louisian? Is that what it is? St. Louisan. St. Louisan. St. Louisan. You guys want to talk about this?
Thanks, sure. You know, it's funny that you asked me to talk about it because I'm not particularly a huge sports fan, but one thing that I am a big fan of is going to any game. So professional sports in St. Louis are a big deal. St. Louis is known for baseball and beer. You know, Cardinals 11-time in Busch Stadium, named after Anheuser-Busch, which was founded in St. Louis at the same time. So during certain games, playoffs, et cetera, they'll have the Clydesdale see on the Anheuser commercials come out and walk around the stadium. It's cool. Blues hockey, very big in St. Louis. It's always a big deal anytime there's a game going on downtown. And then we have a brand new stadium going up right now, a soccer stadium. We're getting an MLS team, St. Louis City SC, who are planning to come in 2023. Jake, what's your favorite team?
Probably the Blues. Honestly, I've seen probably the Blues more than the Cardinals, even though it's so easy to get tickets for each. But if you're really nice to your general surgery colleagues as an intern, they can get you really, really nice seats because they have basically their department has season tickets, and it's only like 10 to 20 rows back from the ice. And I went to like at least 7 Blues games that way. And then some of those games were during the magical Stanley Cup run that they went on back in 2019. So
that was wild. Like
yeah,
St. Louis was wild.
Oh, yeah. A great atmosphere. Even better that it was free tickets. So be nice to your colleagues.
Yeah, I was gonna say we started a couple of years ago. We started getting group tickets to Cardinals games, and so too bad we don't have a picture of the whole group there. But we, since the pandemic happened, we haven't gone back to do it. But we do get group tickets to go to the Cardinals games. They're cheap tickets that you can get anytime you want to go. There's the local train system called the MetroLink. Has a stop literally right in front of the hospital. You can hop on and get off right in front of the stadium, and it's really a lot of fun to get together and go to one of these games. So I look forward to when we can do it again. I keep getting emails from the Cardinals asking when we're going to make our next group purchase. So hopefully we can do that soon.
I'll be there whenever we can.
St. Louis has also a lot of breweries. We're home to Anheuser-Busch. Jake, who frequently goes to these breweries, you want to talk about? Don't make that face.
I'm the brewery guy apparently. So just like any good city, especially one in the Midwest, apparently you got to be all about the craft breweries, which St. Louis is completely on board with. But I think, you know, it all got born with Anheuser-Busch being here. You know, they're, you know, kind of the biggest nationwide, I guess, yeah, biggest nationwide or international brewery out there. But because of that, I think because it's been a beer city, and honestly, there's like at least 30 craft breweries that I could think of off the top of my head. I remember I was reading this this article on Paste magazine, which was listing the top 50 microbreweries of the past decade, and St. Louis had 3 of those top 50. And I actually believe it because I've been to those, and it is, you know, the beers there are so good. I remember I went to a beer fest in DC, and everyone flocked to the line for Side Project Brewing. Even though, and literally, like a bunch of people were like, "Oh, Side Project's there," and everyone went there. And literally, I was thinking, "Oh, that's St. Louis. That's interesting." But I think because of that, there's a big beer scene, and I think if you want to go do something outdoors with the patio with a brewery, they have plenty of options here.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Can't say more about the brewery scene, I guess. It's also a great place for foodies if you like to eat food, which I do. So we have a lot of different neighborhoods in St. Louis, and they all have their kind of own culture and their own food scene. And this is just kind of a list. And like the Hill, for instance, a lot of like Italian food, a lot of like old school Italian food. Like you walk into a restaurant, the carpets are like velvet and like, you know, it's like a classic Italian place. You go to like Tower Grove or the Grove, and they have like great sandwich places, good Syrian food. So really a diversity of restaurants, and a lot of great places to eat, a lot of great happy hours too.
Yeah.
And speaking of,
I was just gonna say multiple James Beard award-winning chefs, if that's important to you. There's just like a fantastic food scene here that I've very much gotten into.
Yeah, and speaking of great happy hours, this is a picture of some of our residents. Looks like the head and neck team at Basso. They, I think part of their happy hour is that like there's a bunch of drinks that are like half off, and you can literally get this like gourmet $5 burger. So it's like food as well, and it's like pretty good food. This is just like a collection of photos. You see Jake on the right. I think, was this taken at Up Down? That's what it looks like Up Down.
I think it must have been.
No, it's Parlor for
Parlor.
one of our monthly resident socials, courtesy of Dr. Buckman.
We will get to that. Don't you worry. And then I made a slide about just unique St. Louis spots. You know, we have, these are kind of just unique things that you can find in St. Louis. Jake, have you been to Takashima Records? I have a picture of that up here, but it's a pretty cool bar. And then Ted Drew's is this like ice cream place that's like specific to St. Louis. I think David, you've had Ted Drew's before, right?
Oh yeah, it's like as good as
Oh,
advertised.
good.
Yeah.
Even if you're just visiting by and don't end up here or whatever, you should still stop by because it's big time. It's real. It's real good.
Yeah, so there's a lot of unique things about St. Louis too, and this is just kind of a list of them. And then if this is a place that, this is also a very like artsy and kind of performing arts place. David, you want to just quickly go through maybe the art scene here, performing arts?
Yeah. So Jake Lee's the beer guy, David Lee's the arts guy. You know, very fitting, I'm sure. A lot of this is influence of my girlfriend. She's a landscape architect and did undergraduate here, and so I've been a happy victim of her sophistication in class. So there's a lot of contemporary art, a lot of public galleries, and everything is very accessible. That's one of the nice things about St. Louis as a metropolitan city is it has everything, but it's not so big that you get priced out of everything. That's something to really think about when you're choosing places and location is a lot of cities will have everything, but you may not be able to go to everything. St. Louis is one of those special places where big enough to get everything you really want in terms of contemporary arts, performing arts, free stuff, and more kind of underground cuts. It's all there and it's all available to you. So as Teresa said, you know, we're doing a little double date action to the Muni next week in Chicago. Although Any residents invited, not just for us.
I think I just self-invited. Yeah, and it's not like it's, big cities, like New York, where you're waiting in line for 4 hours for any of these experiences. There's a lot available to you that you can get to really easily, which is easy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and Shakespeare in the Park, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Forest Park.
I go every single year. It's always fantastic. This year was King Lear, and King Lear, the actor who played him, was a Broadway, Tony Award winning guy. So it's always amazing, and it's very cheap to free. So.
Oh, farmers markets.
Oh yes.
You go to the one.
Also,
which one's the one you go to?
I go to the one in Tower Grove every single Saturday if I can, which is always amazing. The one in Soulard is the one that's pictured there, and it's a very historic old built out area, which always has a ton of different stuff. There's like a mini donut shop too, which is delicious. U City is nice, it's cute and small, but Tower Grove is my absolute favorite. There's always a ton of local produce, amazing peaches in the summer, amazing watermelons right now, and then always a ton of other good stuff too. So good bread that is locally made, meat. Actually, one of the thoracic surgeons at WashU has his own livestock farm and makes amazing meat. There's just a ton of stuff always to do and a ton of stuff to find here.
And Mardi Gras, we just have to talk for a little bit about Mardi Gras. And Teresa's in this picture, so I think she's the perfect person to talk about Mardi Gras in St. Louis.
So, interestingly enough, St. Louis has the #2 biggest Mardi Gras parade in the US after New Orleans. And there's always a contingent that goes every year. They do all the things that they do in New Orleans. It's a family-friendly event. There's floats and they throw beads, the whole thing. So if you love New Orleans Mardi Gras, you'll love it here too.
All right. So I know we're running low on time, but I do want to talk about resident social life. We try to hang out. We're all really good friends, and we make an effort to see each other outside of the hospital. And so wanted to go into that a little bit. So resident socials, these are actually sponsored by our department. We have one every month. Dr. Buckman gives us $500 every month. I don't know why I'm just saying Dr. Buckman, but it's the whole department. I guess he signed off on it. And we use that money to do a lot of cool things. And so like in this picture, we went to this place called Recess. It's basically like an adult playground. They had like shuffleboard. They had like football, bowling, I think it was. Yeah, bocce ball. And like you just get beers. It was really, really fun. We do a bunch of other things too, like barbecues, I guess more so with like the COVID and stuff like that. But yeah, it's very generous, and it's it like makes us like get together and like be a family,
We've also had joint get-togethers in the past with other departments. So there was like, the ophthalmology party, orbital blowout, things like that.
Fun names.
Yeah. Anesthesia, the Malin party. We've had time with plastic surgery, face call. It's good times. So looking forward to doing more of that again. Hopefully COVID gets better.
And like I said, Dr. Buckman is not an elusive figure. And so he invites us over to his home twice a year. Not so much with COVID, but we had to cancel one of our events. But, he has a summer welcome party in August. And this is a picture of that, I think, last year, 2 years ago. And then he also has a winter holiday party that's catered and is really, really nice.
The whole department goes. Fantastic.
Yeah, really, really fun. And then Friendsgiving, this is like a resident tradition when Raj was here, hoping to continue that if, COVID sort of dies down. But basically, Raj was one of our former chief residents, and his wife was a really great cook, and still is a great cook. And he's still in St. Louis, so hopefully this happens. But this is just a picture of all of us with all this amazing food. It's a really great time and great for people. Many of us can't make it home, obviously, for Thanksgiving. And so it's really nice to kind of be around your second family. Oops, sorry.
Winter holiday party with white elephant tradition. Always a good time.
Yeah. So, and even with COVID, we couldn't get together last winter, but we did do a white elephant. And so this is just a picture. I think this is at Ricardo's house. I forget what I got that year. Well, I know Dr. Pipcorn, who was also invited to this, he's one of our attendings, got, I think, some upset tests. Like, if you don't know what that is, it's a scratch and smell, and they're actually kind of expensive. And so that's what he got for his white elephant.
Nice.
And then chief graduation night to top it all off.
Yeah.
Really, really fun. I don't know, you want to talk more about, you went to the one this year.
Yeah,
but
this was fantastic. We always all get together. There's always it's always the same day as our research day. So basically the morning you'll have, you know, all of the resident research get presented, which is really fantastic to see what your co-residents have been doing. And then there's always a nice event in the evening and afternoon, you know, pre-COVID and hopefully post-COVID, if families come in for the chiefs, very nice dinner, speeches. It's a really good time. And then of course we all go out and hang out and maybe do some karaoke, something like that after.
I had to put this picture on here because it's so epic. But a couple of years ago, we went to karaoke afterwards for chief graduation night, and Dr. Jackson is one of our attendings, and he loves Lincoln Park and just couldn't resist belting Lincoln Park, and so that's what this is. Okay, so I know it's 8:01, so thank you guys for sticking around. I know a bunch of you guys submitted questions, and we really appreciate that. We do want to take the time to provide you with some answers. So if you guys want to stick around for that, great. If you can't, we totally understand. So first question, what recent changes in the last 1 to 3 years have happened within WashU's residency program? Great question. A lot actually has changed. Ethan, do you want to tell us about some of these changes?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Was thinking about things. One of the things that stands out to me is the faculty growth that's been mentioned, and also the expansion to the different hospital and surgical sites, which we've also mentioned before. I think it's really valuable to see things from different perspectives. Part of the faculty recruitment that's nice is that they come from all over the country and you see different styles. I know a lot of hospitals have sort of a XY university way, and it's really protocolized. I think we really benefit from having a lot of different perspectives and styles. Another thing that I think is an important thing to mention is over the last few years, we closed the resident clinic, which by design was for patients that were uninsured, and made the intentional choice as a department that anyone, regardless of ability to pay, would come to our clinic and meet our attendings. I think that was an ethical, moral win. And interestingly enough, Dr. Buckman's mentioned that he's sort of become the champion of closing the co, and a lot of other services have asked him, how did you make that transition? So it's cool to see a different way that he's become a leader. Otherwise, smaller things like the floor that ENT patients stay on got upgraded, and we're in the penthouse suite on the top of the big Barnes building. It's a really nice upgrade. It has everything that we need in terms of supplies for consults. It's great to have a dedicated ENT floor where everybody's put there together.
Yeah, and I think we had mentioned this before, but just tremendous growth. We're going to all these different sites, and you know, getting kind of like a different patient population, even like a private kind of community experience at those places. All right, next question. What is the breakdown of clinic versus OR time look over years 2 through 5, and how does autonomy change in that time? It's a great question. Probably for some of our seniors. Let's see, is Sebastian on here? Yeah. Sebastian, you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we touched base on this, or touched on this a little bit earlier in the presentation, but I felt right out of the starting gate as an intern that you really do feel valued in the OR. If you are kind of needing to do some work on the floor and you're not in the OR, everyone's like, where's the intern? We need them in here so that they can help close the leg with like a free flap, or close the arm with a free flap. And that is so cool as an intern, because it really is your own little case. You have your own scrub that's helping you with that. They're passing off sutures. So you really do feel like a valuable part of the operating room, instead of just kind of sitting there with a retractor, which over the course of several hours can be like, well, I don't know, this isn't like the most fun I've ever had. But as an intern, I can say that I think many of us had the same experience on the consult service that Amrita touched on, where you're doing upwards of 20, 30 trachs, where you're kind of the first assist on those, and by the end of your intern year, you feel pretty comfortable with them. And then over the course of your time at WashU, and when you touch base on the rotations that you've done in your earlier times, when you become a senior, your attendings will gain trust in you to do more of the procedures on your own. And I think all of our attendings do a really great job of understanding where you need a little bit more practice and where you can kind of like be on your own and fly with a case. So that's different for everybody with different subspecialties and how much time you've been on different services, but they all have a feel for that of how to let you do as much as you can to be safe, but also not hover over you. So you're constantly feeling like it's okay. I don't need to really know what I'm doing, if that makes any sense. Miranda, do you have anything else to add there?
Yeah, I mean, just as a chief, I've just been really noticing lately as I'm on the head and neck service that, just comparing to what I remember doing, even just last year, there's a lot of times where I just feel like, the attending is there to help me out and like point out things if, I could be more efficient, but I'm doing a lot of these cases.
Or you're left alone.
Or left alone sometimes, which is pretty fantastic. And it's just really highlighting to me like the progression of, how much things have changed. Or I'm teaching, some of the junior residents how to do these different things in the OR, which is really, really fun. And I've been enjoying it a ton. So it's definitely graduated progression. For the question about clinic versus OR time, there's a couple rotations that you spend more time on in clinic as an intern, but other than that, it's all just based on what service you're on.
Mhm.
So, if you're on rhinology, depending on how many days a week the attendings are in the OR versus in the clinic, you'll spend about that in OR and clinic. So you'll spend, maybe a couple days a week in the clinic, and then the rest of the 3 days a week in the OR, or some breakdown like that. Head and neck, you spend a lot of days in the OR and maybe 1 day in clinic, so it really just depends on the service that you're on, but it's fairly consistent across the years that your clinic versus OR looks pretty similar to like attendings clinic versus OR in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Agreed.
Hey, just a quick addition. Sorry, I don't have my camera on, but just to build on what Miranda said, the culture is that ORs are always covered. OR never goes uncovered. So when we're making the schedule, all the ORs get covered. Oftentimes clinics go uncovered, but it's not like you must cover this clinic all the time. So if there's operative experiences, they are never missed out on by the residents.
That is definitely true.
Which isn't true everywhere. Some places, clinic is required for certain attendings, that sort of thing. But if there's a good case, but Dr. Buckman's clinic might go uncovered, that sort of thing.
Yeah, totally true. All right. Can you tell me about resident wellness in the program? Seems like a great question for one of our wellness leaders. Let's see, Ricardo and Teresa. Are you guys our wellness leaders? You want to give this a stab?
Yeah. Sure. So I'm one of the GME wellness representatives for our department. So we meet monthly with the leaders of the graduate medical education, as well as other resident representatives that can advocate on behalf of the resident and fellows that are at Barnes. And we discuss a number of topics. We provide resources for physical and mental wellness. We have a dedicated website. We make a weekly events calendar, which I just finished for this week. We do a lot. So each individual program does a lot of things, but there are also a lot of kind of GME hospital-wide initiatives that have been done that combine kind of all of the programs. I think during the pandemic, everybody was very concerned, and a lot of residents, frankly, suffer a little bit through COVID. It's tough being isolated and also working and dealing with the patients. And have these hospital surges. And so one of the things that we did is we organized a hospital-wide like scavenger hunt type thing, where you would submit photos of your group going out and finding different things like in a park, or it was kind of a fun thing, the entire hospital. got on board with, everybody from internal medicine to general surgery and ENT, and everybody was kind of on board, and it was kind of a fun thing. So those are the things that we sit down and talk about, physical, mental wellness, and ways that we can improve the hospital environment, even down to the call rooms and the condition of the call rooms, what needs to be done, are there things that need to be updated, et cetera. So I think that not only our program, the ENT program, but also hospital-wide and all of GME takes wellness very seriously. So what else? Are there any other particular aspects that you wanted me to touch on, Catherine?
Yeah, let me make a point there, Ricardo. I think that a lot of places, and all those programs are excellent, and I think they're really good support. But I think our program also does really well just on the fundamentals of wellness. So our pay and benefits are really good. We have great health insurance. Our housing situation is really good. We stay within duty hours. All the kind of like fundamentals of quality of life are there. So the other things are more for, as issues come up, we can support people who are going through, particular circumstances, but kind of the fundamentals of wellness, like, is our call schedule benign? Do we have a good working environment? That stuff, I think that's what really attracted me to this program.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, there's also, I don't know if it's still going on, but there's an interesting program that Barnes advocates for. If you're interested in purchasing a home as a Barnes Jewish employee, if you buy within in certain particular neighborhoods, including the Central West End, they'll subsidize your down payment, which is a really cool thing. WashU was doing it for a while, but I think Barnes is still doing it. And so that's really cool. That's like, especially for T32 residents, if you're interested in purchasing a home, definitely something to take advantage of, or at least look into before you make that decision.
Ricardo, I'm glad you mentioned that. We bought a house in March and we got a $12,500 forgivable loan, tax-free, interest-free. It sounded too good to be true.
All right. So I'm really sorry that we're running kind of low on time. It's 8:12 already. So let's see, I guess we'll just skip to the last slide because I think these are good questions that a lot of people want to know. And I'm sorry if we didn't get to answer your question. We'll have the program coordinator send out our emails, and so we can answer these questions by email for people that have specific questions. But this one I really liked. In general, how well does WashU support residents applying for fellowship and beyond in terms of faculty mentorship and guidance? I think this is really important. So Miranda, since you're looking for a job or looking for next steps, why don't you talk about this?
Yeah, so it's been really fantastic. Basically everyone I've reached out to is like more than happy to help me out in any way, shape, or form that I could ask for. It's been incredibly supportive. I feel like it's rather than like, I have a few primary mentors, but I feel like I could approach literally any of our faculty and have both fantastic advice and an offer to help in new and different ways from literally anyone, which has been really fantastic, just knowing that support is there. And I know that for some of my co-residents who've been applying for fellowship, they've had extremely fantastic matches, and the faculty have really gone to bat for them as well, in getting them the matches that they want. So it's been really encouraging to see how everybody's kind of launching from here.
And I will say that like most people are coming into residency sort of undifferentiated for what they want to do. And it helps to come to a program like this where you get really amazing clinical training and you feel comfortable graduating and going out to the community and doing and being very independent. But if you want to do fellowship, every subspecialty is strongly represented, and we have like big names and good research too, which is huge for fellowship matching. And so, if you go to a program where they don't really have like anterior skull-based surgery, like, getting that exposure, I think, is pertinent to wanting to do, a rhinology fellowship. And we have that in every specialty here. So whether you want to go into the community, whether you want to do fellowship and go into academia, like this is a great place to be. So can't really, like I said, plug this program enough. And then the last question, what is the best part about WashU and ENT?
Let's just open it up to any resident. Anybody have anything that they want to add or feel like they didn't like something that wasn't touched on?
Yeah, any interns on, or Andrew or Dan? I saw their names pop up. What do you have to say about this program?
Yeah, I'm
Sorry
happy
for putting you
to.
on the spot.
I think Zach really put it well. It's a no compromise program. There are not many programs in the country that can offer you like really uncompromising surgical exposure, academic exposure, and a good quality of life in a great city. We're talking like low single digits. I'll leave it up to you guys to find the other ones, but I think WashU has really kind of hit all the priorities for me at least. And free access to penguins in the Central Park Zoo or St. Louis Zoo is pretty good.
That's awesome. Penguins are the best.
Can I go?
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
As I was looking at programs and in your shoes several years ago, I felt that definitely WashU gave me a feeling that it was a very high caliber program that had a ton of research, that pedigree, that you look on Doximity and you're looking at the top programs, that sort of thing. It has all of that, but the distinguishing characteristic from that WashU had compared to these other high name programs is that I felt that the residents were just operatively outstanding. One of the few programs that had like the trifecta of resident camaraderie, outstanding operative experience, and outstanding research. And I wasn't wrong. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better place. So that's what I have to say.
I totally agree. I mean, I ranked WashU #1, and I remember coming here with high expectations, but I was just super impressed, and it has pretty much lived up to that. And another thing that I will say is that resident culture is huge. Like, you're going to be there for 5 years. You're going to spend more time with your co-residents than like your spouse, maybe. But I mean, you spend a lot of time with these people, so it's important that they're good people. And residency is tough no matter where you go. You're going to have like days that just really challenge you and are really tough. And it's all about like the people that you can come to for that. And I think we have a great support system. I think we're there for each other. And nobody knows what it's like except for the people that are going through it with you. And so it's important that those are good people, and we are good people.
Yeah, I think so too. I've had a fantastic experience with that. When I was a junior, my seniors would always check in with me, say, hey, how's, consults going? Are you, keeping up? How's things? What can I do to help you? People would bring me dinner. It was just really sweet in general. People are very supportive and very thoughtful.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming. I know this went a little over, but I think Jana gave you guys our emails if you guys have any additional questions.
Please feel free.
I hope you guys have a great night.